whenever you're ready.
You know, Joe, I've always loved movies about the early days of the music business, the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, and I was in all of them.
Yeah, it seemed that way. You know, I loved you in Eddie's and the Cruisers as that guy who was hiding out, keeping
Doc.
the myth of Eddie alive.
Live.
Yeah. Now, was that just a coincidence? That
It was,
you
well,
were-
yeah. I mean, we were making those movies in the late '70s, right? I was in The Idol Maker, Eddie and the Cruisers. I was in a movie called The In Crowd. I was in a movie called La Bamba. Rock and Roll Mom was a TV movie that I did with Diane Cannon, with music related. And I'm missing one, but yeah, I was in all of them.
Eddie and the Cruisers, that was a film that was kind of strange that when it came out on cable, suddenly the soundtrack album became huge.
Yeah, I think I think the media and studios realized at that point the power of video and television, because the movie had come and gone, and it wasn't until 9 months later that it hit the HBO, and then the record had to be reprinted, and it sold over 1 million copies.
You know, I've always been fascinated how people treat screen villains. Risky business.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of unusual reactions do you get from people after that movie came out?
Well, after and now, I still get a lot of stuff. You know, people quote line, you know, take quotes from that movie and talk to me, you know, and they'll say, I mean, never fuck with another man's livelihood is a quote that they use, and in a sluggish, I'm being, what is it? I have a trigonometry exam and I'm being chased by Guido the Killer Pimp. Like when we did that movie, you know, I was the character's Guido, and then I became to the world Guido the Killer Pimp. So you never know, you know. Who knows what lines they'll be quoting from Steel Big Steel Little.
Well, you know, you played some of those characters that kind of hover below the sink, under the sink in the dark places. Now, in this film, you know, to play that well-dressed guy who hovers in that area, was that a nice change of pace to wear those great outfits?
Oh, yeah, especially the purple dress. You know, it's just, I don't care what the guy's wearing as long as he's truthful and he's funny. I mean, this guy was a great guy to play. You know, from fancy clothes to monk's robes and hair to no hair and eyelashes, and you know, it was just everything.
Yeah. Well, the first day you walked out with the dress, does the crew treat you any differently, or are you just waiting for the jokes and the practical
They were all
jokes?
very respectful, and actually, I went out with an electrician for 2 weeks after that.
You know, I have an old girlfriend who lives in Santa Barbara and used to go around there quite a bit and really enjoy the town. You shot movies in different places, in different cities. Bystanders in Santa Barbara, how do they react to a film company being in town different than, say, crowds in LA or New York?
The curiosity level is greater. They're much better behaved. They're. I mean, I've shot movies in China, you know, in Shanghai, China. I did a movie, and there's a look of awe on the people's faces. But Santa Barbara is just a beautiful area, and when we were working on Main Street, it was always cool to see the crowds that we would pull in.
And one final question, doing a story on the advice that actors get throughout their career. Sometimes they get good advice, sometimes they get bad advice. Hopefully, you know, you follow the good advice only. But what have been some of the worst pieces of advice that people have given you about your career over the years, that not necessarily that you followed?
Bad advice?
Yeah.
When they told me not to play the role of Joe in Risky Business, you know, they wanted me to play that part. I said, "No, let Cruz play it." That was bad advice.